Black pudding is a type of blood sausage that's popular in Britain and is made mostly from animal blood. Now that you've worked up an appetite, we're taking you to one of the more unusual events involving black pudding. It was held last weekend in an English town named Ramsbottom. First, the food was wrapped in women's nylon stockings, and that's only part of what's unusual. Competitors hurled it toward a small platform stacked with Yorkshire puddings, a type of baked bread, in an effort to knock them off their perch. People here seem to have a pretty good time, but if you're asking why, you're asking a good question. According to local folklore, there was a battle during the Wars of the Roses in the 1400s when the two fighting sides ran out of ammo. So maybe it was pudding in stockings? Reuters News says people came from as far away as Australia, Peru, and Cambodia to take part, and we wouldn't be surprised if this is really the most fun you can have with pudding stuffed in hosiery. Hi, I'm Carl Azuz for The World from A to Z. It's Constitution Day. We're going to explain why and challenge you with a constitutional quiz in a couple minutes. First, though, we're taking you around the world in 80 seconds. The Asian country of Nepal has seen rapid changes over the past week. Officials say there's been widespread loss of lives and property following recent protests. A group calling itself Generation Z accused Nepal's former government of corruption and demonstrated against a temporary ban on social media. They burned government buildings, courts, and politicians' homes, and Nepalese police were accused of shooting lethal ammunition at demonstrators. The government, whose prime minister resigned last week, says more than 70 people were killed in the protests, dozens, possibly hundreds more were injured. The nation's army helped restore calm, according to the Associated Press, and the gaming app Discord was used to help choose the country's interim or temporary leader, though critics say it may not be the most reliable election tool going forward. Nepal faces an uncertain future. If you saw our show yesterday about how makeup companies are pursuing Japan's elderly population, you might not be surprised to hear Japan just counted a record number of centenarians. The nation's government says there are almost 100,000 people there who are 100 years old or older. 88% of them are women. Life expectancy in Japan is famously long. Experts say staying active and eating fish and vegetables are some possible reasons for that longevity, but the nation's low birth rate is still causing the population to shrink.
A world of knowledge. The Camp David Accords, a peace treaty signed in 1978, involved what two countries? The U.S. and Russia, North and South Korea, Israel and Egypt, Israel and Lebanon. Brokered by U.S. President Jimmy Carter, the Accords were a historic peace agreement between Israel and Egypt.
September 17, 1978. After 2 weeks of secret negotiations between officials from Israel and Egypt, the Camp David Accords were signed at the U.S. presidential retreat in Maryland. It was the first major agreement between Israel and an Arab neighbor, and both of those countries received billions in U.S. military aid as part of the treaty. But the Camp David Accords left some big questions unanswered in the Middle East. And while diplomacy has continued between Israel and Egypt, conflict continues between Israel and Palestinians. Rewinding the clock a bit, we come to this date in 1787. That's when 39 delegates signed the U.S. Constitution at the end of the Constitutional Convention in Philadelphia. The work to make the document the law of the land was just beginning. 9 of the 13 American states would have to ratify it in the months to come. But the fact that such a big step was taken on September 17th is why this date is recognized as Constitution Day.
Hey! Did you know over 11,000 amendments have been proposed to the U.S. Constitution, but only 27 have been ratified? To learn more, check out the periodic table of the amendments at periodicpresidents.com.
Which nicely transitions into our Constitution Day quiz in honor of the document's signing 238 years ago. We'll start with something hard. What two U.S. founding fathers did not sign the Constitution? James Madison and George Washington, Ben Franklin and Alexander Hamilton, John Blair and James McHenry, John Adams and Thomas Jefferson. Because they were serving as overseas ministers during the Constitutional Convention, John Adams and Thomas Jefferson didn't sign the document. Next, who's considered the father of the Constitution? George Washington, Ben Franklin, James Madison, or John Adams? Because of his tireless work for the convention and proposals that would become the Bill of Rights, James Madison holds this title. Okay, the 27th Amendment, the most recent to be ratified, deals with congressional pay. What was established by the 26th? Presidential succession, abolishment of poll tax, minimum voting age, or presidential term limits? Ratified in 1971, the 26th Amendment set citizens' minimum voting age at 18. 2 more to go. Which branch of the U.S. government is mentioned first in Article 1 of the Constitution? Executive, legislative, judicial, or none of the above? Article 1, Section 1 states, quote, "All legislative powers herein granted shall be vested in the Congress of the United States." Finally, which of these phrases appears first in the preamble? Promote the general welfare, provide for the common defense, ensure domestic tranquility, or establish justice? In order to form a more perfect union comes the phrase, establish justice. Congratulations to all y'all for getting a perfect score.
A parade of around 160 athletes in Kenya chanting, part of a reimagined coming-of-age rite that's turned a cultural tradition into a sporting event. In the Maasai tribe, what's called the Olamaya rites once required young men to hunt and kill a lion. But today, the rites have been replaced with various competitive events, such as running and throwing a wooden hunting club called a rungu into a small basket for points. There's also an event where the athletes try to see how high they can jump to touch their heads to a rope. Hundreds gather to watch what's been nicknamed the Masai Olympics.
It's important for me because, in our community here, during those days they like killing lions, but for now it has brought impacts because everyone is looking to come here and compete to get something like money, others get job, and it is motivates other athletes when they see others running, they want to come to train. Yeah, they become champions.
The games were created back in 2012 in part to preserve the lions in the region, but they didn't immediately catch on with tribal leaders.
It was a challenge, but we tried to go around and show them film. Even me personally, I feasted to the Laibon, the spiritual leaders in Tanzania, northern Tanzania, and I tried to educate him first. Then he agreed to talk to the warriors in front of the camera, and he said no more lion killing. So there we started to talk to them. We showed them film until we changed their mind.
Lion populations had plummeted from 30,000 in the region in the 1970s to only 2,000 today. But ever since the Big Life Foundation started the Masai Olympics, lion numbers have begun to rise again.
Looking north to south today to spotlight 3 of the schools watching, we begin in the province of Alberta, Canada, with the Wolfpack of Woodhaven Middle School. Mr. Crawford's class is with us from Spruce Grove. Crossing the border into Big Sky Country, that's Montana, we see Mrs. Waldbillig and her students at Chinook High School. Thank you for watching from Chinook. And we'll wrap things up in the Sunshine State. From Lake Worth, Florida, a warm welcome to Mr. Garcia's class at Park Vista Community High School. A newly discovered species of snailfish is making waves, mostly because of its glassy eyes and gill-to-gill smile.
Researchers with the Monterey Bay Aquarium Research Institute have confirmed this grinning little guy is one of 3 species of snailfish previously unknown to science. The newly classified species has been dubbed the bumpy snailfish by scientists, thanks to its knobbly exterior, but it's the baby blue eyes and cutesy-poo smile that's reeling in adoring social media fans hook, line, and sinker.
It seemed happy about its newfound fame, or anything really, but if the animal whose emotions run deep secretly thought there was something fishy about this lure of interest with people taking the bait about its everyday expression, it still faced the whole school with a smile, unafraid to stay in the swim. I'm Carl Azuz, and we'll be diving into another edition of The World from A to Z tomorrow. Thank you for being the best part of what we do.